This is going to be a quick little thought process tier list thing on the legends. I think right now it's a little volatile. There's going to be some changes. And I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is that the rank meta you are in is going to determine what you can kind of play. If everyone's playing a certain fast-paced comp, you're not going to be able to probably play Tom Kench, right? If everyone's playing Draven Caitlyn, Kench is going to be a little worse. If everyone's playing slow setups or item setups, etc., with like Ornn or so on and so forth, you kind of have to kind of play around that. So kind of keep that in mind. And so that's going to kind of be something to keep in mind as you go forward. Make sure you know what the meta is. Make sure you're reading what's going on. Tactics.tools, I imagine, will have a thing on it eventually. Look at your favorite YouTubers lists, etc. So kind of go from there. First things first, Ornn. I have a hard time with Ornn because it's very much a directional thing, but at the same time, if you don't get the right Ornn item with Port Forge, it just feels very rough. Is what I'd go for. You don't have a whole lot of agency in a lot of these decisions. You can't, necessarily dictate that you're going to get Mana Zane out of your Port Forge. Your Living Forge is RNG. Can they cap really high? Sure. If you get really lucky, your cap is through the roof. But at a certain point, the silvers kind of feel meh. And so I don't really know if it's really all that great. I think Ornn can be good. So like I think Ornn probably sits more in like a C to B, maybe like a C plus or a B minus, somewhere in there if I could put it in between. Just because I think the silvers aren't as good as other silvers are. The golds are sus if you don't hit the right thing. And Living Forge and the prismatics feel good, but you don't then even get to choose with Living Forge. So compared to other prismatic augments, I think they're a little bit worse. But that's kind of preference. I don't really like RNG personally. I think the RNG makes it a little bit more suspect to play. Ornn is something you want when you need it, but other than that, it's meh. Yeah. Give him What the Forge. I actually think Ornn with What the Forge would be nicer, in my opinion. I think What the Forge feels very much Ornn related. So why he isn't What the Forge kind of is weird to me. But okay, so Tom Kench. I think with the hedge fund nerfs, Kenshin in general feels a little bit more suspect at Priz. I think AFK and Rich Get Richer are fine starting options, especially if you have like a gold open with Rich Get Richer. And then AFK is always great if you just don't have a strong open period, which I don't dislike. At the end of the day, it's just money. Like Kench is literally just giving you economy. So if you're trying to play a reroll heavy game or a fast 8 or fast 9 level game, it kind of gives you that opportunity to play whatever you want, whenever you want. But I think because there's no given direction, and with the hedge fund nerfs, I think Kench is more of an A tier right now. With hedge fund now getting nerfed in this most recent patch to 16 gold, I believe it is, for the early option for it. It just, you're not getting that much gold, and then at that point, the increase of it is just, it feels really rough. But you do have options, and you do have the ability, given a really, really hard econ open, to be able to really push that limit. So I think A is good for him, but I don't know if I'd give it more than A. That's kind of what I would dictate it as. So going into Veigar, I haven't played Veigar very much, but I think Veigar is great if you like playing AP carries, and you want to guarantee Jeweled Lotus for that AP carry. I'm not super interested though in Veigar personally. My whole problem is, yeah, Ascension just isn't great, especially with things now allowing you to have overtime start earlier with some of your Augs. It just, it feels more like a CD tier to me. Veigar just doesn't feel like he has as much value. I think Final Ascension is fine. I think stage 1 and stage 2 and stage 3 are okay. But I think Master Yi and like other options are probably better. So if I had to go like somewhere, Veigar's maybe a C minus D, but I'd put him in like the C because I don't think he's bad because it's combat Augs or, you know, something of the sort. CD tier. How about DVD tier? You know, I don't know if it's DVD tier. I don't know if it's DVD tier. I do think Final Ascension though is good, and I think Jeweled Lotus 1, 2, 3 are good. And so like even Jeweled Lotus base is still fine to me. But I'm not a huge fan of Veigar just because I don't like that there's no set push, right? Like there's nothing to tell you to go aggressive or not, right? It just kind of seems middling to me. But we'll see. Maybe Tiny Power is better than I give it credit for. But I still think like CD tier. I think Draven is interesting. I think Draven's really interesting. I think Draven is very aggressive, right? I think Draven is super aggressive. And I think that's both good and bad. So hear me out on why I say it's good and bad. Spoils of War, in my opinion, is great if you're playing into like a lot of players who are Tom Kench or Asyl or something of the sort. People who are playing really heavy greed in general. I think it's great. I think Draven Spoils of War is great if you get a 2-star frontline or a 2-star backline early, right? I think to me, Draven at his peak is probably like an A tier. But more than likely, with the most recent nerfs, as Fly is saying, to spoils, I'm probably going to say more of like a B tier. Rolling for Days is probably my favorite stage 4 setup in a lot of these setups, but that's also available on Caitlyn. And we'll get to why I think maybe Caitlyn is just a better Draven. In going forward here. His stage 3 setup kind of just seems odd to me. With Spoils of War, like I'd like to see for stage 3 with Draven some type of combat augment. Like the gold just seems kind of off kilter to me. Like I'd rather see with Draven a combat first aug. I'd rather see stage 2 combat first aug in terms of econ. Stage 3 just doesn't seem to make sense. Like, why not Jeweled Lotus be available for stage 3 on Draven, right? Like, it just doesn't seem to really jive to me. And with the changes, I think Draven in a high roll is an A tier, maybe even S tier. But consistency, I think honestly is more of a B. So we'll kind of see. Balanced budget is better than money. No. Money. No, because Tom also has balanced budget. So it's like it's just the same thing to me. And in all honesty, I actually think money is better because it gets you that threshold faster. But yeah, I'm just not a huge fan of Draven, I think, with the changes. I think Draven is very high roll dependent, and dependent on the meta. If people are playing really greedy and everyone's playing Tahm Kench, I think Draven's a lot better. But if you're facing Caitlyn's, I think Draven's just a worse Caitlyn at that point. And so I think that's inherently just kind of my thought with it. It's an econ trait that wants you to donkey roll, but like then in turn gives you a bunch of gold that I don't know. It just I see the strat they want here. They're like, okay, you're gonna roll a lot on stage 2 with Draven to get your win streak and get your econ going with Spoils of War. Then stage 3 will give you a little bit of money to then stage 4 be able to roll more. I'm not a huge fan of it. Especially when Spoils of War just with the nerfs just is not going to be as good. I think Pangu is weird. So I don't know how to describe Pangu. It feels both like playing for 5th or playing for 4th. Like it's that setup where you're not really confident, you don't know what you want to play, and so you're playing for 4th. I think that Metabolic is actually a really good 4th place AUG, Justin. And so I like the gold tier. I honestly like the silver tier and what it gives you. And I don't even necessarily like mind Tiniest Titan either. You're playing for 4th though. Like at best, you're playing for 4th. I think you got to remember though, like you got to remember with Tiniest Titan, you're also getting gold per round. So you're getting an econ and HP AUG. So you can then sack really hard and get a lot of econ. So like, I don't know. I think Pangu is actually a lot better than people give him credit for. I think he's probably more of a B tier for lower. For lower, but I think the cap with Pangu is lower to me. I just don't think Pengu's nearly as high of a cap as some other options. But to me, it's not really that much different than playing for a 4th. But again, I don't mind it. It seems like the low tier. I should say the low elo crutch. The low elo crutch is what Pangu I would consider it as. Higher LP, higher elo, you might be able to get away more with Pangu because again, if you get Tiniest Metabolic, then you can econ hard, right? And a lower elo player may not be able to then understand the situation you're in to play a loss streak early. With Tiniest Titans or Metabolic, the items allow you to scale in terms of power in stage 3 and stage 4. So I don't hate it. But with the nerfs again, Gert, to Kench, I just think he's A tier because he's a risk. If you don't get an econ start, I just don't think he's as good right now. I think he's a fun one. He's getting a nerf to his a setup. But anyway, Urf. Okay, Urf. Urf is the tuber games, man. Urf is all tubers. I think Urf is all tubers. I think with the current setup, though, in the game, I think Urf can be anywhere from an S to a D. Depending on what you get from those Ancients. Man, depending on what you get from Ancient and branching, it's either S or a D. I think the age-old thing is it's more often than not going to be better. I think stage 2 Urf is really good, but I don't know if I really like his stage 3 and stage 4s. In all honesty. Outside of the Priz, I don't know. I just don't really like big grab bag and such. I do think though his stage 2 makes him at least an A, guaranteed. But I think again, in the actuality of it, Urf is RNG though, and for the same reason I put Ornn in a C tier rather than a B tier is you're playing the RNG game. Yes, you can theoretically get higher odds to get certain spats, certain emblems. But I think at the end of the day, you're going to have situations in which Ancient Archives 2 is not going to give you enough value to outscale. Six energy is just good. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just tough for me. Even if you do, technically speaking, manipulate the tomes, there's no guarantees that you will always get the chase traits. You still have the ability to hit something that's not a chase trait, guys. And that's just my thing. So it's just tough. I think higher LP players, Urf is better. Lower LP players, Urf is a D because no one knows what the hell they're doing. So in general, I think it's an A. Because if you get a bad Ancient Archives, I think you're going to be in a troubling spot. But that's kind of where I'm sitting at with it. Asyl. I want to like Asyl. I do. I want to like Asyl. But yes, Asyl is getting nerfed. But on top of that, I've said before that I personally prefer getting level up on 3-2 over 2-1. So I actually think Asyl's third tier in Prismatic on 2-1 is not really that good. I think Asyl's honest to God best option was Patient Study, which is getting nerfed, if I recall. And Cutting Corners is also getting nerfed, if I recall. So it's like, do you really like stage 3 that much with knowledge download? No, I don't. And then it pays to earn on stage 4. Sure, I like these. It pays to learn. I like these, but they don't make up for the shitty opening. So I'm actually going to honestly put Asyl in D tier. I just don't think he's good. I just think there are better options. If you want to play fast levels, play Tahm Kench. I don't care. Play Draven. I don't give any something other than Asyl. I think Kench is just a better Asyl. He's better for everything. I really don't think Asyl is worth playing right now. Yeah, I think the gold is just better options. Items are better options. I don't think Asyl is worth playing. And at this point, it's just not worth it, in my opinion, to play Asyl. I really don't think Asyl is good enough. You can dislike Kench, but I think Kench is going to always be somewhat meta because he's gold, which gives you flexibility. You can open for it and play flexible. Master Yi. I think Master Yi is underrated. I think Master Yi is going to be a lot better than people give him credit for now. So I don't know. No, exactly, Joke. We all have different playstyles. And that's the hard part, right? So it's always gonna be different. I think if you like playing AD, you are an AD main, you love playing Aphelios, whatever. Master Yi is like AD paradise. And I really just don't like see the negative here. I mean, because even a lot of AP users these days are still attack speed based. I think the thing with Yi though is you have to commit to it. You have to commit to the combat augments. You have to commit to the ability to play it. And so, like, I actually think Yi is sneakily better than people give him credit for. Yeah, that's just what I'm saying. So, like, I think honestly, for just like the straight combat value of it, I might put Yi in A here. I don't know though. I haven't played him. I haven't played him enough. It's a better power fantasy execution than compared to Soul. Yeah, no, for sure. I think at the end of the day though, he is just always good combat value, and you can't underestimate combat value. I think honestly, I think Yi is going to be an S tier because they're buffing fast, right? I think they're buffing fast in this next patch, and if you play around the attack speed of pumping up, for shivs or whatever, even for AP, like there's a lot of value there. Yi seems strong in reroll. Yeah, Yi's strong in reroll. I think Yi is strong in verticals. I mean, it's just combat augments, and they're good combat augments, and they're gonna work for everyone. But I do think AP is gonna be a little bit worse with Yi than AD. But the thing is, dang, you don't have to take all the combat augments, but it's giving you a guaranteed combat augments. Like, it's not that you have to take them, but you're guaranteed to get one, which I think is good because you can still get an econ augment instead of battle ready 2, right? Or battle ready 1. I guess battle ready with silvers, there's not really many econ augs, but anyway, you get the point. Or gotta go fast instead of gotta go fast, right? Because you don't have many mana generators. And you don't really need the movement speed. You take an econ aug at stage 4, or something, right? But I think pumping up gives you a good baseline to be able to build towards. I think pumping up gives you a good baseline to be able to build towards. And I think honestly, it's just combat dogs. It's why I don't like Draven right now. The combat dogs just aren't there. It's guaranteed top 4s without actually having to try too hard. Combat dogs give you HP saved all the time. And that's just kind of where I'm at with it. Ezreal feels weird. I like it, but I don't. I like the items, but I don't. So like I think at the end of the day, if you're going to play a very item heavy game and then play something like Well Earned, I think I could see the option here. I got 3 tiers from 3 BT3. Yeah, that's just the thing. Like, it's the same reason I don't like Ornn. It's the same reason I don't like Ornn. It's just it doesn't give you much. I think the reason why I put Ornn ahead of Ezreal though here is that I can at least guarantee I get a Prismat, like an Ornn item. I at least get an Ornn item, which is better than nothing. And I think the Ornn item is worth more than just random components that won't help. But there is a high roll chance there. So like it's probably D+. I think Ezreal is better than Asyl. But I'm not entirely sure. I take component anvil over BT1. Yeah, and I think that's just where it's at for me. Ez is a hyper roll. I guess I could see that. At least in C tier. You know, I don't know with Lee Sin. I haven't used him a whole lot, but I've used his augments a couple times. Trade sector on a roll, etc. feel pretty good. Lee Sin is, I mean, by definition, a donkey roll player. But I actually think his prismatics are worse than his silvers and golds. I actually think Lee's prismatics are worse than his gold at a point. Like trade sector, I think is just shopping spree, but you're not losing a prismatic value. On a roll is really good if you know how to play the holding of tier ones for more rolls. And I think at a certain point on a roll, you're actually going to get more rolls than trade sector or shopping spree. I think Lee Sin is probably like B or C tier. Again, on the same edge of maybe like a B minus C plus. But I feel like his silvers are really strong and his golds are really strong. And so to me, it's not too bad. I actually think just because the prismatic is bad, you can always just take something else. Because instead of taking prismatic shopping spree, why not take another better combat priz? And then when it comes to training rewards, take training rewards or something. Then you just get a duplicator to get your 4-cost 2-star early or something of a sort, right? You know, that's kind of where I'm at with it. That's kind of where I'm at with it. And then money, it's just more econ, right? Which I don't hate. But again, I don't really get the shopping spree. Shopping spree just doesn't feel worth it. Like, yeah, you get some extra rerolls, but at that point, like shopping spree is just worse than any of the reroll augs that give you free rerolls. What's the ones I'm thinking of now? Anyway, I just don't think he's really that good. Getting a champ dupe is nice though. That's where I'm like, training rewards are good, but I actually think again, training reward 2 is better at most of the time than training reward 3. But yeah, shopping spree needs a buff if I want Lee Sin to be anywhere good. Vlad. Vlad. I think Vlad is really good if you're playing that brawler frontline, that craziness. But I don't really like Ascension. And so, like, to me, I know everyone's really hyped on Vlad. I think Yi is just better. I think Transfusion's good. But Battle Ready's on Yi. And then I just really don't like Ascension. I don't really like Ascension. I'm not a Vlad enjoyer. I am a Vlad hater, and that's fine. I that's okay if you like the HP. There might be specific comps that Transfusion works really well with, like Juggernaut, for instance, or something of the sort. I think really works well with it. But I mean, yes, you are correct, Lawrence. In the situation where you get a Transfusion, a Battle Ready, and an Ascension, they as a cohesive unit work pretty well. But in my opinion, they aren't good enough to need to be like they're not pickable in some situations. I just don't think Transfusion or Battle Ready are always going to need to be picked. And then at that point, Ascension, there's better prismatics than Ascension, Final Ascension. It's going to require you to build a certain setup, which might work, but it might also not. And that's kind of where I'm at with it. So yeah, I'm gonna leave him there. Twisted Fate. I think Twisted Fate is interesting. I think Twisted is nice, but outside of Final Ascension, I don't like Ascension. Partial Ascension and Ascension are trash to me. But I think if you're playing a specific setup that requires Zeeks, Gunners, or something of the sort, Twisted Fate's really good. If you want BIS items, that is who you are. You need those BIS items. Pandora's items 1 and 2 can give you some value. The positive for me of Twisted Fate over Ezreal, for instance, because I really don't like Ezreal. Twisted Fate over Ezreal, in my opinion, is simply because you have the ability to get items that you actually want or need, rather than getting junk. Like, and that's just my thing. Like, I don't think it's bad. And remember, Zeeks can be utilized in AP because better manager generation. But I think Gunner comps or Zaun, for instance, but yeah, I think he's situational, much like Vlad. I think Twisted Fate to me is more of a middling unit. Probably like, again, a B- a C tier. I don't love him. I don't hate him. I like the items though. If you can use Zeeks, he is a very defined path. But at the end of the day, you have Pandora's to get you better items. Whereas Ezreal, you may have more items, but he's not always going to give you something you can actually use. And that's kind of where I struggle with Ezreal. I mean, I'd put like anywhere in between A and C, depending on your playstyle. But I think Twisted Fate to me is more of a B tier. I'm way more of a AD player. As always, I don't love Pandora's items just because you can sometimes get in this trap of waiting too long. And the correct as well, Fly. You're waiting. So you're not slamming because you're waiting, which doesn't help. Bard is I don't know how to feel about Bard, man. I actually don't know how to feel about Bard. He feels I don't know. I mean, like, I kind of like Bard's stage 2 Augs if you want to open fort. But then, like, his stage 3 is kind of just Ornn. And then his stage 4 is kind of just Twisted Fate. I think he's okay. But you need to hit level 8. You need to hit level 9. You need to survive. So it's kind of rough for me. I think he's a hyper leveler because you want to get to level 6 early to get these items. But at that point, like, why? I don't know. I think Bard's more of a C tier. He seems like he can be usable, but not really. Caretaker just feels funky in general. Maybe with a buff or two, making this a little bit more available. Sure. But with the changes to make it more expensive to get to level 8 and 9, I'm just not a fan, man. I'm just not a fan of Bard. Now we get to Caitlyn. Caitlyn, I think, is the aggro lover's paradise. If you love being leveled early, you love starting off with good units. I mean, stage 2 for Caitlyn is just too strong. You get starter kit even if you only get now 2 champions of the tier 4 range. You're still getting 2 tier 4 champions of the same type. Caitlyn gives you direction. Caitlyn gives you flexibility with Stars Are Born. Starter kit gives you direction. 1, 2, 3s gives you good econ or a direction or a good 3 cost unit, right? I think Caitlyn's S, man. It's the value in playing aggressive, right? And I think we're gonna see people playing your Ornns, your Ezreals, your TFs, your whatever. People are gonna be waiting for their items. Asyls, and Kenshin, I think, is the 2 that really go against it. Or even Dravens. But at the end of the day, like, man, I just feel like Caitlyn's stage 2 is so good that they're gonna have to neuter her stage 2 to be anywhere worse. And then stage 3, I don't really like stage 3 that much for Caitlyn, but that's also one of those I'll just re-roll it then. Like, I'm using Caitlyn to get an advantage and be like 100 HP going into stage 3. I sack stage 3 a little bit maybe because my augs are bad. But then stage 4, I'm level 8, level 9 already because I'm just flying. And then I get a bunch of free rerolls when I need them in stage 4. Poro is just Poro tier, basically, guys. I think Poro is probably like a B, maybe a C. But like, if you're gonna play Poro, you're just looking for like the most flexible possible options. And I think to me that's fine, but that's not for everyone. Poros are bad for like newer players. Poro is bad for middling players. Poro is probably best for someone who's been playing thousands of hours. But like at that point, I don't know if it's really worth it. Because yeah, I mean, why not play Kench? Why not play something else? There's just better options. Like play Caitlyn if you don't know where you're playing. Play Kench, play Urf, play something else. Like you can make arguments. I mean, again, people are saying Urf in S tier. I could make that argument. I could make Urf in S tier. I can make Kench a B tier. But like, I don't know. I think this is a good kind of rough estimate to me. I think the majority of units should be like in this kind of area, right? A to C tier. But I think the problem I have with moving Twisted Fate is Twisted Fate, you're going to be waiting for the Pandora's Bench to give you what you need, which then in turn you're waiting to slam, which then in turn is bad. So, I don't know. I'm just not a huge fan of it. But yeah, that's kind of that. If you have any questions on it, let me know. Otherwise, yeah, just flame me in the comments on YouTube then, guys. Catch you later. Peace.